Hello and welcome to the final ballot. It is great to have you with us for another week. Not quite the week we wanted to have, but we're going to dissect the game as best we possibly can. We're going to look forward to the Gold Coast Suns game in Darwin. Huge Thursday night clash. We're also going to talk with Marcus King, who is Chief of Strategy, and I'm going to get his entire title here. Geelong Football Club's Chief Strategy and Growth Officer and General Counsel to talk the fixture release that, well, by the time this is released, will have happened. I am joined, as I am every single week, by Meg. I'm joined by Meg McDonald. Meg, I'll try and get my words right. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, Lingy.
We are going to talk the fixture with Marcus a little bit later on. Some news around what time the home games are going to be. Obviously, the run in to the finals is going to be crucial to maximise crowds, maximise profit, but also maximise performance. We'll get to that later on. We've got to get straight to the game on Friday night, unfortunately. A game that amazingly, it's 6 points the difference, and maybe if there's an advantage paid, it's
okay,
closer
we're doing
again.
that, are we? Yeah.
No, we really shouldn't, because we're very honest on this podcast. We try and be as clinical as we can possibly be. It wasn't a good half. First half.
It wasn't.
Was not a good start to the game. Port Adelaide were outstanding. You could see they were right up for it. And unfortunately, we did not play well and did not handle the early part of the game, and ultimately just got ourselves probably too far back to try and chase. Despite it being a good chase, it was a long way back.
Yeah, what did you think? You're on record as being a big fan of that midfield, the opposition midfield. What was troubling?
Yeah, was their domination from the stoppages early on, and it wasn't even necessarily that their numbers were out of control, as in if you looked at the clearance numbers, contested possession numbers, the differential wasn't off the charts. It was simply the effectiveness of those clearances. And Jason Horne-Francis was supreme. Zach Butters was excellent and probably had the more four-quarter performance. Yeah. And we'll get to why maybe Jason Horne-Francis' second half was quieter soon. But early on, we had no answer, and I felt that was obviously, being a Geelong fan, disappointing because Connor Rozee, who's their best midfielder, was missing from that lineup. The way they got us out the front and just burst away from stoppages, I felt for our defenders at times that it was nearly impossible to stop. Yeah, how efficient they were from the clearances.
Yeah, I guess there are two different modes of defence, aren't there? There's sort of balls locked in your front half. It's where we are, among the best in the comp, and it's not that we're not in our D50, but it's when you're trying to play a team defence, covering multiple players, working that system, and the ball's coming in that hot, you can't be one step off your opponent. And I felt perhaps we were on our back foot a little, but when the ball's coming at you that quickly, that's your sort of instinct is, I've got to protect the goals, and you sort of headed back that way instead of I mean, I say all that, wasn't easy.
No, and it's funny. I've always had a bit of fun and a long-running battle with defenders over the years with some of my great teammates, truly great teammates, Matty Scarlett and Darren Milburn and Harry Taylor and Matty Egan and these guys. We'd always have the little bit of back and forth around any chance you guys could actually defend back there, and they might suggest to us any chance you could actually put a little bit of pressure on the opposition midfield. But seriously, though, the greatest defenders in the entire world to have ever played the game, and the Cats have one now, and certainly had some in my time as well, they find it impossible, and they become reactive when the ball is racing out of stoppages and out of clearances. And I freely acknowledge that midfield, the midfield efficiency of the opposition, if it is just so dynamic, so dangerous, well, it is near impossible for them. And Port Adelaide kick 8 goals in the first quarter. It's unheard of, probably even at the Adelaide Oval a little bit, for the Cats to have 8 goals kicked against them. But it happened here at GMHBA Stadium. The crowd was stunned by it, I thought.
Yeah, the silence, it happens once or twice and you think, this is great. No, there's no opposition crowd here, you know, all good. And then the silence sets in and you think we are under the pump. I will say from a supporter's point of view, I was at the MCG the week before and felt very threatened by what was happening and I didn't like the environment. And I was sitting here amongst the Geelong crowd thinking, oh, well, we're all in the same boat. This is bleak. But the crowd came with us in the second half.
They did, yeah, certainly did. And so much to knowing this coaching group so well, they will be breaking down, reviewing, understanding why the start of the game went wrong, what happened defensively, what happened midfield-wise, what happened. Could we have got better results when we went forward? Maybe trap the ball in the forward line a little bit more so it just lived there a bit to take some pressure off. So all of those questions will be asked. To then be able to slowly turn it round. As I said, we got too far back ultimately to chase it down, but it's still an impressive trait I find to be able to go, no, we are not going to give up on this. No, we're not going to let this turn into a 60 or 70 point loss and we just go, oh, gee, it was just one of those nights. They fought their way back. I loved one of the moves in particular and hinted at it before. Oisin Mullins, the move for him to come on the ground as the sub and to go to Horne-Francis and say, play a role on him. Play a role to try and limit his influence and that dynamic, amazing ability he's got from clearances and stoppages, but also hunt the footy a little bit yourself and go and win some contested possession. I thought he was a big winner out of ultimately what was a pretty bleak night.
Yeah, I think he got the first clearance, that first CB that he attended start of the second half. But I think we spoke on the way in about how dynamic the footwork and the speed of that opposition midfield was, and that's certainly something that Oisin's got is that he's so quick and he's so explosive. So you've got to be able to physically match it with someone when you're trying to nullify them, and he had that, and he set up some scores himself.
I also love the fact that I completely agree with you. Physically, you need because Horne-Francis is an explosive machine, but his starting points were better on Horne-Francis, and I felt that it gave him an opportunity to at least be matched in their first couple of steps at a stoppage around congestion, and then it became athleticism against athleticism and explosiveness against explosiveness. I felt in the first half we allowed, with our starting points on Horne-Francis or our general midfield starting points, he had that channel through the stoppage which he wants because he wants to charge through like a bull, like Paddy in his prime. And I even, I was working on radio, compared him to the way I used to have to play against Mark Rasciuto at those stoppages. He would
all these socks.
Yeah.
If you want to be a bull, pull your socks up.
Pull your socks up. But he used to burst through and take it more often than not. But if he didn't, he kept going and was a threat on the next possession going forward if it squirted forward. If you allow that channel to someone like Horne-Francis, then he gains confidence from it. I thought Oisin's starting point around that took away that channel and it forced Horne-Francis into his next move at a stoppage, which wasn't quite as effective, still dangerous, but not quite as effective. And then Oisin could use his athleticism and his power against him. I thought decision-making wise and just awareness around the ball really impressed me from him.
Yeah, I agree. I look at the way he's come in and you think he's only been here a year and a half, and you can see him, I mean, it's his profession and he puts an awful lot of time and effort into it, but his game awareness, his I think position awareness on the ground, who to feed, when to do it, when to find that next mark and maintain possession. I think that's really notable in his game. And then you've got the pressure acts off the back of that. I felt like the very first goal that Port kicked in the game was, I mean, the signs were a bit. I'm gesticulating on a podcast, but. I think they scrubbed a kick forward, and in any other game, I think Stewie is attacking that ground ball and we're turning it over and going the other way. Now they put Jed McEntee on him and really grounded him in that first half, and it took us a while to adapt. And I think that was also a change that we saw in the second half, fighting through that tag to generate more scores from the back half. And
even and I don't know if it was a structural thing, because it's a good point you make about just they were able to blunt Stewie's influence a little bit. Zach Guthrie jumped into that like he's done all year as well, but I thought he was clearly Geelong's best player. I think I gave him votes on the night as well. I mean, Tyson Stengel, very good. You know, there were other positives, but I thought Zach, when the game turned and began shifting in Geelong's favour, it was Zach coming at that ball and that ground ball, that loose ball, and turning what had been in the first half a threatening Port movement, flipped back the other way, and all of a sudden Geelong were out and open because of Zach's initial cleanliness, but also decision making. So I thought he was superb again.
Wasn't he? And it comes from, as we said earlier, pressure on the ball. You can't attack the ball as confidently unless there's pressure on it, because you're thinking, I've got to be within a metre of my opponent and go with them on a lead. A bit more pressure on the ball, and he attacks that one in the middle. I think that turned into a goal. And then the one where he was awarded the double 50 was just a matter of I want this aerial ball more than the person standing underneath it. And I loved a bit of verbal off the back of that, and a little bit of fight as well. There was the finish.
Yes, there was a bit going on, and I'm glad you mentioned that one, because every time we talk about on the podcast the Bendigo Banks Meet the Moment nominees, that one is one of the nominees for this week. So Zach Guthrie's great play to win the ball, 100-metre penalty, and then when really needed, because that was when the crowd was starting to get involved, and Willie Rioli, it just, you know, there's a bit going on. Needed him to nail it. Yeah. He goes back and he kicks that goal, and then the crowd was singing, come on, we can do this.
They were chanting, weren't they?
Yes. The other nominee was Jake Kolodjasny's fourth quarter goal line spoil.
Yep.
Really important as well. So jump on the website and or any of the social media and have your say on the Meet the Moment. Funny you say about the crowd chanting. Mm-hmm. I eventually made my way home after work. My kids were still awake because they'd been at the game. And the first thing they said to me was, "Dad, did you hear that chant? Did you hear that chant?" I'm like, "What chant was that, boys?" Well, the one that was, and they were too scared to say.
That's so great. It's like that trend at the moment where kids are allowed to. Anyway, it's on TikTok. If you know, you know. But I was sitting next to Becky Webster at the time. She goes, "Oh, that's so sweet. They're chanting Oshin." I said, "No, they're not, Becky."
No, just listen a little closer.
But no, I mean, it was exciting as we were coming, and you speak about Zach's ability to finish. Tyson Stengel's, he's so, for a small guy, relatively, his strength above his head is he was under pressure on some of those marks. I think only one was credited as contested, but 4 marks inside 50, and his finishing ability is you can trust it, and it's nice to see. Yeah, continuing his terrific season. He really is having that high quality season again. Unfortunately, we don't get the win, as everybody knows, but we are going to cast our eyes forward to Thursday night against the Gold Coast Suns. Before we do that, though, as this podcast is being released, I'm hopeful and sure that the AFL fixture, will have been released for the remainder of the season, not including round 24. That still remains as a floating fixture. All the Cats games will be locked in up until that round 24 clash against the West Coast Eagles. Up next, we're going to talk with the Geelong Footy Club's Chief of Strategy and Growth, Marcus King, to talk about how the fixture came about for the Cats, what requests we might have had, and what it looks like and how exciting the run home is for the Cats. That's up next. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. We are joined now by the Geelong Footy Club's Chief Strategy and Growth Officer and General Counsel, Marcus King. Marcus, great to see you.
Lingy, great to see you.
Thanks for coming along. We're going to talk fixturing. I know Geelong fans and all footy fans have been keen for this one to drop. We know what's happening up to round 15. We wanted to know what's happening beyond that. We have exactly that. We don't have round 24 yet. That remains the floating fixture that the AFL love to do for the last round. But the remaining games, those other games, have dropped now. How does Geelong's run home look? We know who they're playing. We've always had that. We know where they're playing. But the time slots, happy?
Very happy, very happy. So, yeah, as you say, AFL have just dropped the slots for round 16 to 23 and a really good mix of slots for us. So what we're looking for in the fixture typically is a good outcome for our members and fans, and then a good football outcome as well. And we've got both in this mix of slots. So in terms of our home games, we've got a couple of Saturday night primetime games, Essendon at the G, and then the Bulldogs down here, and then some Saturday twilight games in Geelong against Adelaide and Hawthorn. Those twilight games in particular, that's a slot that's emerging as a really a really good slot for members and fans. Very accessible for families and really a broad cross section of our members. So we're wrapped with that.
We know that we enjoyed a record-breaking crowd at the MCG with that time slot, and I was told that it's important to say that we did hope for that on our Essendon regional round game at the MCG. Couldn't quite happen with all the requests. How do you go about trying to get what we want and balance your asks? What's the process?
Yeah, well, it's really important to stay close to the AFL as they work through the fixture, and having done it, in a previous life, I understand the challenges, and there's some things that the AFL can do and can't do. So it's understanding where you can push and where perhaps you can't. So in the case of the Essendon game, we did push for the Saturday twilight because, and we saw it with the Carlton game, it's a great time slot for our members and fans, whether they're in Melbourne or they're driving up from Geelong. And so we pushed for that. Unfortunately, in amongst everything else the AFL is trying to achieve, we couldn't get the Saturday twilight. The next best in our mind was then Saturday night. And that is, we think, still a great slot. It's prime time, Channel 7, and two clubs both going really well.
So the Saturday night is, for those living Geelong, Bellarine, Surf Coast, probably an easier get to than the Friday night game. We do have one massive Friday night blockbuster against Collingwood, not a home game, an away game for Collingwood, but on the Friday night. So for the fans, the ability to get up there and get involved, as you're talking about, Saturday twilight being the priority, Saturday night being the next best.
Yep.
Do you request to avoid Friday nights or don't mind? What's the club's stance on that one?
Well, for our home games in Melbourne, we ask to avoid Friday because it is so hard. When you're finishing work or you're picking kids up from school to then get to Melbourne from Geelong, that's tough on a Friday night, whereas Saturday is a bit easier. So, we do ask to avoid Friday for our home games. You mentioned the Collingwood game Friday night at the G. That's an away game, so we don't necessarily get as much influence over that. And so, that's harder for our fans to get to, but it's still a great slot. Like that, and it's prime time Channel 7. So one way or another, it's very accessible for our fans.
One of those twilight games Saturday at GMHBA Stadium is against Hawthorn. Now, when we first got the fixture, we noted how long it had been since we welcomed the Hawks down here. How good has it been to have those bigger clubs come down our way?
It's great, isn't it, Meg? Back at the late last year when the AFL were producing the fixture more broadly, one of our major requests was to have more big teams down here. We've got the new Joel Selwood stand, 40,000 capacity, and we think it's right that every team should be able to come down here. And this year, Hawthorn, as you say, and that twilight slot, terrific. We've got Richmond here in a few weeks' time, along with a number of other Victorian sides. So that's what we think the norm should be down here going forward.
That's pretty exciting. You talk about that's the ability to maximise attendances, get that wonderful, and also the exposure around television and everything like that. There's also the footy perspective, which is probably the most important. You certainly ask Chris Scott that. He'll say that. Only one 6-day break in the run home, obviously depending on the round 24 game. And also the cool thing is, of the away games, only 2 of them are interstate. So one in Tassie and then the one game in Perth. So from a football perspective, this feels like a really good, solid run into the finals.
Oh, I agree. I've touched base with Scotty about this. He's very happy. It is a really good, consistent turnaround between games. Only one 6-day break, as you say. Only 2 travels, so 7 of the 9 games in Victoria. From a footy point of view, very strong.
Now, we've got a few themed rounds in the fixture as it finishes up. I think I touched on the regional round. We've got one more retro round, Bulldogs Saturday night. Do you buy the jumpers for each of these events?
Look, I haven't bought one for every time.
Okay. Disappointing.
But I will this year. And I know we've had Melbourne as the retro opponent last few years, which has been great, but I like the change-up. Obviously, we don't have Melbourne in Geelong this year. There's a long history with the Bulldogs. I think that'll be a really good game, actually, and I'll be looking to get the jumper.
We've got a pretty exciting couple of weeks. I know we're not here to talk to you about the next couple of weeks, but the fact that we've got GMHBA Stadium games back-to-back once the team gets back from Darwin, the Giants and the Tigers, obviously the Giants right up the pointy end of the ladder, the Tigers perhaps in a different phase right now in their rebuilding with the injuries that they've got. But having those couple of big GMHBA Stadium games, and then before we head into the back half of the year, how's everything going as far as attendances, the new stand, chin, the feedback? What are you hearing around from corporates, supporters, everyone around how GMHBA Stadium's travelling at the moment?
Yeah, unanimously positive, Lingy. I go back to round one. Almost 40,000 people here. It felt full. It looked full. Sounded full, and that's been the experience, I think, ever since. So those games coming up, the Richmond game is effectively sold out. It's a ticketed only game. So we expect sort of mid to high 30,000s for that game.
Fantastic.
And then the Giants will be similar. And that Giants game, two teams playing well at Saturday at twilight time slot. It's the Doug Nicholls round as well. So there's a bit of added activation around the game. Both those very exciting.
Yeah, I walked for the first time on the weekend from home to the game up through the plaza, and the feel of it, looking at that new stand, it was really exciting to be part of. I've only got one more question for you. I don't know if you do, Lingy,
No,
but
go for it, Meg.
Just a personal one that I know the fans will be shouting for as well. When's my fixture coming? And we coming back on soon.
I'm keen to get it too, Meg. And AFL said yesterday it's a couple of weeks away.
Awesome.
So yeah, we will know more soon. But yeah, women's season starting end of August.
40,000 at GMHBA. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's get Marcus back on for that once we get the AFLW fixture drop as well. You can hear how good GMHBA Stadium's going right now because there's constant repairs and everything going on.
Yeah.
Just in case you can hear that in the background, it takes a bit to keep the stadium running and little running repairs here and there. So that's that drilling you can hear. Thank you so much for joining us. It's exciting, that run home. As I said, round 24, that always drops really late in the piece once the the AFL's got a bit of an awareness of where teams might finish, top 4 battles, top 8 battles, that type of thing. So that will happen in time. But that run from round 16 to round 23 looks really exciting for the Cats. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Lingy. Thanks, Meg.
We'll be back next with your questions. And, of course, we're going to look forward to the Gold Coast Suns game this Thursday night up in Darwin. Back soon. Welcome back to the final bell. It is great to have you with us. We've talked all things fixture, upcoming fixture. Very, very exciting. But let's just look to the short-term fixture. This Thursday night, Darwin, Geelong taking on the Gold Coast Suns. We have 2 losses in a row. Time for a win, I think, Meg.
Yeah, time for a win.
Against a Gold Coast Suns team who like playing in Darwin.
Yep, they had a good win there on the weekend, I believe. I reckon they're spending the week there. So
Yes.
they'll be ready to go. Dehydrated more than likely. So let's take advantage of that.
I like the sound of that. The Cats and the Suns do kick off Sir Doug Nicholls round, which is fantastic. On Thursday night, Jeremy Cameron will miss for the Cats. That's been confirmed under the concussion protocols. Tom Hawkins also going to miss.
Yeah, Scotty confirmed in the post game that he won't play. So you'd have to think Shannon Neal at least.
I think it does feel that way, doesn't it, that Shannon Neal's going to get that opportunity into the forward line. And it'll be because of the personnel, a different looking forward line, I imagine. Does Gary Rowan go more forward then, or do you like him up around and behind the ball?
I like him forward. I'm wondering with the conditions, assume there'll be dew. There'll be a lot of sweat if there's not a lot of dew. I don't know if we go for a small into the team. I don't know if Sean Manor plays, Mitch Hardy, bit of
I like that.
Bit of Lawson.
Playing great footy in the VFL.
So yeah, a bit of left foot. I think I've got absolutely no word on it, so I don't know, but that's where my mind goes.
As we always say, keep an eye on the Cats website, the social media channels for the GMHBA health update.
Yep.
One health update I would like to know is Tanner Bruin.
I saw him having a run around and a good old kick. Again, he was another one. I think it was him and Toby Conway that Chris Scott said before the Port Adelaide game. It was could if we needed to, but we're gonna put them on ice for a week. So hopefully that means that they're both available this time around.
That would be fantastic. Obviously, the Gold Coast Suns, they've got a very good midfield as they're developing a team with Noah Anderson and Matty Rowell and Tuke Miller and these sorts of players. So got some real quality through there. So the depth of our midfield is going to have to stand up again. And
Similar style to Port or completely different?
Slightly different types of midfielders. Just the dynamic nature of Butters and Horn Francis and that. Probably a little different, whereas Rowell's really inside.
Yeah.
Can certainly do things on the outside. Noah Anderson's just developed into a superb footballer. Love the way he plays the game. So, yeah, there'll be challenges, and Jared Witts, I'm assuming, is all good and fit to go. Will be a handful in the ruck as well. So it'll be a great challenge, and as we said right at the top, that the Suns play Darwin very well, and they're almost trying to make that as their other home ground when they get to go there, and doing it very, very well. The Cats will be wearing their Sir Doug Nicholls round Guernsey, which is really exciting. It's titled Layers of the Land. So if you do want. And a lot of people do. A lot of people do. Want to get one of those jumpers. They're available at the Cat Shop. Yep. So jump onto that one. Actually, I've got here in my notes, speaking of things you can buy, the Cats have got the Cats Hoops raffle coming up. Can you tell us about that?
I certainly can. I'm going to also check my notes. But for just $10 a ticket, you can be in to win your share of over $50,000 worth of prizes. First prize is a brand new 2023 Ford Puma. I was lucky enough to drive a Ford Puma for a little while, and highly, highly recommend. So grab your tickets. The funds go towards the Cats community programs. You can check out all the prizes and enter at raffle.geelongcats.com.au. So jump on there and be in it to win it.
I'm sure the Ford Puma would be a magnificent car to drive anyway, but I reckon it'd be even better when you get it for free because you win it. That would be a cool raffle to win. So jump on and get that one. Quickly, the VFLW, unfortunately, not that pretty, Meg, I must say.
Wasn't
going down
pretty.
To
I mean, I have it on good authority that the team was given a bit of a oi. Come on.
Okay. That's all right. You've got to get one of those, because it was a very, very comfortable win to Collingwood at Deakin University Oval.
That's right, we go again.
The next game is against Casey Demons, Saturday 18th of May at Casey Fields, 2:30 p.m. for anyone who wants to check that one out. The VFL, coming off a bye.
Yep.
They face the Coburg Lions this week, Saturday 18th of May as well, 1 p.m. at Piranha Park, which I'm assuming must be Coburg's home ground.
It is. I've played there. Have you played there?
Well, I think I would have. Yeah, I assume, is it the same ground that Coburg have played at forever?
I think so, yes.
Okay, then yes, I have played there. I just didn't know it was called Piranha Park.
Piranha Park.
I'm learning something. So obviously with the bye, we don't have a lot of direct form lines to talk about coming into the senior side, but you've already mentioned hopefully a couple of players who were very, very close, could have if they had have wanted to, but Toby Conway and Tanner Bruin maybe. But I reckon some of those players that you reeled off before have had great VFL form, Mitch Hardy and Sean Manor and even Ted Closey, maybe playing against his brother.
Yeah, a bit of that.
Yes, tell his brother to stop playing so well too. He's playing terrific footy.
He can play well, just not this week.
That's fair. Obviously, hopefully Ted gets an opportunity at some stage playing great footy. Let's get to some questions.
Let's do it.
Lots coming through. Jack Quattro. Is Zach Guthrie the better Guthrie better Guthrie now? Well,
you're going to say right now.
Yeah, no.
And that's
the question
possibly
didn't
a different
say
question.
right now. Yeah. Let's set Zach the challenge and continue on his merry way for about another 6 or 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we can have the conversation.
We would love you to win a BNF in a premiership year for the Cats, Zach. So put that on your to-do list.
Well, continue on. Larry David. The Larry David? Maybe.
Well, why not?
How
another pot.
How likely is Zach Guthrie to win the best and fairest? Because, my God, he's playing elite footy. Larry, yes, that is. You are a good judge. He's playing elite footy.
He'd have to be the leader at the moment, do you reckon?
Jez is always going to poll well in his big games.
Yep.
Tom Stewart's always going to poll well in his big games. Max Holmes has been very good. Tyson's been very good. Grine's been very good. But
no from Lingy.
No, but over the course, I'm just talking it out aloud to you.
I reckon the last 2 weeks he would have
gone bang, bang, big
Gone
votes.
bang, bang, big.
But even before that, he might have got the third best votes in almost pretty much each game for the year, consistency-wise.
I reckon he'd be leading it. I think he probably has Stewie covered at the moment. So I think he's leading it from the back line. That's about all I've got for you.
I like it. Hopefully that answers it, Larry. He'll be right there at the moment. Please continue on your merry way, Zach. Josiah has got one. Favourite goal kicked by a Geelong player in general or this year? I don't mind which way you go.
In general, I've kicked one goal for Geelong, Josiah, so that's my favourite. Easy answer. I'll go Chloe Shear, prelim final. I think she might have, can't remember if she put us back in front, maybe not, but rolled onto the right from 50.
Okay. I like it. Good goal.
I'm representing the women's there.
My favourite goal?
I've got one actually while you think about it.
Apart from when I was a kid, Billy Brownless's goal after signing Gary Senior and that. I think Travis Varco's goal in the 2011 grand final, not the first two, the one late where he is involved in the play deep in defence on the wing and then finishes on his left as though he's having a stroll in the park is just the most magnificent goal.
Shout out to Joel Selwood's final goal for the Cats. Actually, that's probably mine.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
There's been a few good ones, hasn't there?
The next one.
Sean says, "How do you think the club's tactics will change with the anticipated humidity in Darwin?" I think tactically you don't change dramatically because players are so skillful now. Yeah. But what you need to do is adapt quickly within the game and go, okay, it's got really sweaty or dewy or slippery or whatever you want to call it. And maybe that extra handball or two isn't on so much and you just get it forward and perhaps you aim to have even numbers ahead of the ball because if there's a contest and it comes to ground and it's borderline wet weather footy, that makes defenders really nervous.
Yeah, it really does. I think we noticed it on the weekend, when we were successful, when we were really high up the ground. Jeremy Cameron gets it in the back half of the sort of centre to back. And we had, I think, Brad Close and Tyson Stengel at the back quite regularly. So I think we'll see a little bit more of that. But I think we noted that we've done it well at times this year, adapted to conditions, and the very next week not so much. So they'll be all over it. Yeah,
hopefully they jump onto that one pretty quickly, Sean. Sybil, I'm going to test you here, Meg. Who is the female player that has played the most games for Geelong?
AFLW?
Yes.
Who do you think, Lee?
I was about to say Megan McDonald.
Correct. You're looking at her. Me and Hawk, games record holders. No, I believe Julia Crockett-Girls and myself are leading because we hit 50 in the same game and I think then played every subsequent game for that year.
What are you up to now?
Not 60, 55, 56,
okay, cool.
Something like that.
There you go. I'm glad I guessed right.
We've both missed 2 possible games for the Cats.
There you go. Awesome. There you go, Sybil. Hopefully that one answers that for you. I'm just really happy I got it right because if I got it wrong and said someone else and not you.
No. You know me, just consistent.
Jake, big fan, has a question around Oisin Mullen. Oisin was impressive on the weekend. How did you see his impact? Jake, hopefully we covered that in the first segment. We both thought his impact was excellent and you can see the growth of his game and the way it's developing and predominantly been off half-back with the game a bit more in front of him, but to see him to have an impact in the midfield, I think is another thing to get really excited about.
Yeah, looking forward to this week and seeing how he goes against does he line up next to a Raoul at some stage?
Yeah.
Those conditions, ball in the contest. We'll see if he makes his start in the starting 22 this week.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's hope the Cats get back onto the winners list against the Gold Coast Suns on Thursday night in Darwin. That's us done for the day. We will be back again next week. Obviously, still plenty to talk about next week. We'll be reacting to hopefully a Cats win before they head back home to GMHBA Stadium, taking on the Giants. It'll be Tom Hawkins' record-breaking game.
Huge.
We had all the big fuss about the record equaling. That's where I think he wanted the fuss to be because it was with his great mate. But Tommy, bad luck. We're going to make a fuss when you break it too. But that's all to come down the track. First of all, they got to focus on the Suns game. And we'll be back next week, Meg.
See you then, Lingy.